It had been the best summer of her life, but also the worst. She had lost so much, but she had found courage, and for the first time, she felt like she had a future. It was time to leave the past behind. She decided to look at the photos one last time. The old woman in the next seat leaned in. Kristal paused for a moment. Did she really know these people? Or was she just making it up on the spot? What if she had answered differently? Would her memories of them change? She tried not to think about it. After all, it was natural for her mind to be scattered, considering what she had been through. The final photograph was the one of her and the boy. Kristal hesitated. She didn't know what to say. He was the reason she had made it this far, but then just the thought of it made her nauseous. Then something even more horrible dawned on her. When she saw the eagle, her blood ran cold. A million thoughts rushed through her head. How could she have been so stupid to think she'd just get on a train and get away? She was naive, and now reality caught up with her. This time, she had nowhere to run. After all, she was still the frail little girl she had always been, and he was much too strong. Kristal remained silent. She knew she deserved what was coming. But did it really have to end this way? Funny maybe, but thrilling and exciting was a bit of an exaggeration. In fact, the circus had fallen far since its golden days. Over the last couple of years, many performers had left. But who could blame them? After all, they joined the circus expecting adventure. When they learned that the ringmaster refused to travel, they eventually got bored and moved on with their lives. The only performers left were those who had nowhere else to go. The circus was their safe haven. It didn't matter to them that the show was dull. They just wanted to escape the real world. Kristal wasn't one of the performers, but she still couldn't leave the circus. If anything, she felt like a prisoner. Sure, the circus was safe, but it was also deadly monotonous. She was tired of hiding from the rest of the world. When would it be her turn for some adventure? Sun touched her skin. She had been blindsided by summer. It was as if Mother Nature had fallen asleep on the job, only to wake up and fast forward several months overnight. For a moment, nothing else mattered. The voice was like a cloud intercepting the rays of light. Then she saw the boy. Kristal knew that opportunities like this don't grow on trees. Maybe this was her only chance to leave the circus. The boy snapped a photo and put it in his pocket. They said their goodbyes for now. Kristal was happy about meeting the boy, but could she really run off with him? It's not like the others would mind. They probably wouldn't even notice she was gone until they ran out of clean underwear. But she still owed the ringmaster a big one. she decided to give the circus one last chance. Her mind would be made up by the morning. It was time for dinner. She could smell the stew from the caravan. The only thing inside the ticket booth was the footstool the ringmaster used to reach over the counter. That, and a tip jar with 2 popsicle sticks and a lonely shirt button. The fortune-telling machine was old. While it did have a coin slot, Kristal had discovered it could also be started with a well-placed slap. Kristal gave it a whack. It always said the same thing. Kristal figured the ringmaster had programmed it. Kristal shivered when she looked at the giant teddy bear. It was supposed to be an obtainable prize back when they had games at the circus, but that was a scam. Now it just stood there, staring at her in the night. The tall lady's cat was tormenting a pigeon. It hissed when Kristal came close. It wouldn't let her pass. She would need something to shoo it away with. The clown, a man in his best years, he was juggling, dancing and telling jokes all day long. He could put a smile on anyone. Kristal admired him. The clown was busy. It seemed only food could take his mind off juggling. The large ball used to be part of the tamer's performance. But since the tamer left and the lion was released into the wild, the ringmaster forced the cat to balance on top of the ball instead. Kristal almost pitied it. Kristal stared at the daredevil's dusty cannon. He had left the circus to become an accountant. Numbers were more thrilling, he said. Kristal wouldn't know. She never learned math. The door to the stables was locked. Kristal wasn't allowed to enter without supervision. Obviously, the cat couldn't speak, but if it could, it would probably have said something like, When the cat was gone, the bird chirped. Everyone knows birds can't speak either, but Kristal imagined it had something to say. Kristal couldn't decipher the name on the envelope. She would have to ask around to find its recipient. The ringmaster was in a wild argument with a large officer. This was the sheriff. His presence meant trouble for the circus. He was a disciple of the eagle, the tyrant who ruled the country. Their affiliation was official by the emblem he carried on his chest. Before Kristal came close enough to hear their conversation, the ringmaster slammed the door in the sheriff's face. The sheriff pushed Kristal aside and left the circus. The well-dressed lanky woman was prima donna Luciana Valentina Scorticini. Kristal called her the tall lady for simplicity. She used to be a famous opera singer, or at least so she claimed. But she had left that life behind when she joined the circus. When the ringmaster brought Kristal to the circus, the tall lady protested. Kristal never really understood why, but it was clear that the tall lady hated her guts. At first Kristal felt rejected, but eventually the tall lady grew on her. Kristal began to see through the insults and recognized a friendly tone behind the cold facade. Kristal figured that banter was just the way the tall lady connected with people, and so she played along. Kristal had no choice but to comply. It was her job to serve the circus performers after all. But where would she find water? It hadn't rained for weeks. There wasn't a single drop of water at the bottom of the well. The goose had moved into the circus the same day as Kristal arrived. It was probably just a coincidence. What did fill Kristal with wonder, however, was how it got there, because she had never seen it fly. Most of the time, it just sat on the roof and gazed out over the horizon. Kristal imagined it was missing its family. Kristal was not too fond of how she looked in the mirror. All she could see was her flaws, so she'd rather not look at all. Kristal remembered when these posters were made. It was back in the day when twice as many performers lived in the circus. Among others, the painted picture showed the tamer, the mechanic, the twin line dancers, and the daredevil. She used to get along well with these people. They were all so kind to her when she arrived at the circus. But now they were gone, and every day Kristal asked herself what she was still doing at the circus. Honey, the edible gold. The others wouldn't be happy if she took it all for herself. It took a lot of willpower, but Kristal managed to keep her paws off the jar. The stove was warm and cozy. In the winter, she could sit and stare into the fire for hours. When she looked deep into the flames, everything else became dark. It allowed her to escape the circus, if only for just a moment. This was the bear woman. She was the most recent addition to the circus crew. Why she chose to join the circus at the time when most of the performers were quitting remained a mystery to Kristal. She was taciturn and had a habit of sleeping during the day. Even when awake, she didn't say much. Kristal knew absolutely nothing about her. The clock was out of battery. Just another detail which made the circus feel frozen in time. A sturdy bowl, great for serving hot stew. Kristal filled the bowl with stew, but this serving was not for her. The door to the stables was locked. Kristal wasn't allowed to enter without supervision. Kristal felt remorse over beating up the cat earlier, but she wasn't in the mood to go looking for it. Finding the recipient to the letter seemed like a more important task. After that, she could search for the cat if it was still missing. Kristal found it odd that the old generator was always running, despite the circus using very little electricity. The girl in the back was Strong Girl. Her nickname was self-explanatory. Kristal was thrilled when Strong Girl first joined the circus. Finally someone around her age she could be friends with, she thought. But their friendship didn't play out the way Kristal had imagined. In fact, it didn't play out at all. There was just this unbearable silence whenever the two of them were together. Kristal had nothing to say to Strong Girl, but maybe the letter was hers. Kristal reached out to hand over the letter, but she fumbled and dropped it. The letter was lying on the ground in front of them, but the next moment the wind grabbed hold of it and pushed it in under the tool shed door. There was no reason to panic. Kristal calmly walked over to the shed. But the door wouldn't budge. It was locked. So, after a series of unfortunate events, the letter was behind the locked tool shed door and the clown had been served the key for dinner. Kristal felt responsible to sort out this mess. So the key was gone. Kristal would rather not give Stronggirl the bad news. But perhaps she didn't have to. It was getting late, and she still had to find the tall lady's cat before she could call it a day. No, that's not how it went. Strong Girl was leaning over the bare woman as Kristal entered the caravan. Kristal climbed into bed, but she still had 1,000 questions. So much had happened today. Her head was spinning. She was anxious and felt lonelier than ever because despite being surrounded by people, she had no one to talk to. Then she thought of the boy and how sweet he was. He noticed her. He understood her. He wanted to help her. He offered that human connection she was longing for. If she left with him, she wouldn't have to worry about the sheriff, the key, or anything. The thought of running away gave Kristal a moment of relief, and she soon fell into slumber. Kristal woke up by a gentle knocking. She scratched her eyes and saw the boy smiling on the other side of the window. Kristal stared at the cookies. Where did they come from? And how were they going to help her get past the bear woman? They did look delicious though, so she took a nibble. Suddenly the room started growing. Kristal screamed, but her voice was so feeble no one heard her. She realized it wasn't the room which expanded, it was she who had shrunk. Then everything began shrinking again, and she realized it was only a moment until she would return to normal size. She hurried past the bear woman while she was small enough to go unnoticed. By the time she exited the caravan, she returned to regular size. The boy was wrong. The giant teddy bear did swallow him whole. The boy knew exactly what to do. He took Kristal's hand and showed the way. She could see everything from above, and nothing was in her way. This was freedom, and it was exactly what she had always dreamt of. She was so happy. If there was ever time to burst into song as if she were in a musical, this was it. But her singing voice was terrible, and she'd rather not ruin the moment. Instead, she waved at a passing flock of geese, and they greeted her back with a The bear woman was having breakfast. Or Kristal wasn't sure it could be called breakfast when she was also getting ready for bed. Kristal had no good reason to bother the bear woman. So the plan was to steal the ringmaster's car, which was easier said than done, but at least these keys weren't inside someone's stomach.